Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure, and Nextv Series is a wonderful event where I have had a chance to learn a lot and get updates and newest trends. United Media is the largest media provider in Southeastern Europe, covering span of all ex-Yugoslav countries, Bulgaria, Greece, but also being available all over Europe and world through its OTT services. We, in collaboration with our affiliate companies, we are members of United Group, which is also the biggest telecommunication group in Southeastern Europe. Having, well, premium content available through our TV channels, as well as we have a quite developed TV production of our own. We have music distribution. Naturally, we face quite a lot of issues with piracy.
Would you say that Southeastern Europe in particular is an area that suffers more from piracy than others, or is piracy now grown to such an extent that we all have the same problem no matter what territory we're in?
All right, that's actually a good question. Traditionally, maybe a region would be considered as a less appreciative of IP protection, right? Well, I would say that actually the levels of piracy are comparable, to Western European countries, and regardless of jurisdictions, the level of piracy usage and availability is, well, pretty much borderless at this time. So you will have high rates and quality of IPTV, legal IPTV services or streaming websites available in any of European countries, I would say, around the globe. So regardless of maybe some ideas that maybe in this part of Europe intellectual property are not as respected, in practice actually it's the whole Europe faces the same issues, faces the same problems, crisis, I would say, when it comes to new trends of piracy. So
it's great. If we were here having this conference, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we'd be talking about the problems of card sharing, perhaps. Now, of course, that's no longer a problem. And the reason why it's no longer a problem is because all the piracy has gone online.
Right. And there is a steady development of piracy over time. I mean, it kind of coincides with the development of IPTV, where we moved on from card sharing now to dominantly IPTV, illegal IPTV services, and streaming, OTT streaming as a source, as a dominant form of piracy. And we have also moved away from downloading content to streaming. Today maybe it's a generational thing, but everybody wants to have everything available as on YouTube or as on Netflix. So some of the old habits that were maybe dominant in the first decades or 90s have been replaced by streaming, and this is a dominant form for sure.
So, as you were saying, you have at one end of things, you have your TV channels, presumably including some very valuable premium content, some which you've probably created yourself for your production houses, others perhaps sporting events that you've brought in from sports rights holders locally and around the world as well. What are the main elements on your side to, I guess, stop your content going out? But there's a separate problem, of course, of other people's content coming in that will maybe come to that. So to stop your content being pirated and ending up in the Czech Republic, in the UK, or wherever via one of these IP services.
Right, that's a valid point. Starting from us, usually we have to look at it from our point of view because we are the only ones authorized to act on our own behalf. We don't expect someone else to protect our rights. Well,
but I guess the sports rights holders, for example, who you speak to and work with?
Of course, there's a wide level of cooperation and mutual understanding where we have alignment when it comes to these issues completely, because this is battle against bad actors in this sector that are devaluating all of our rights. So,
don't mind me, I'm just getting tangled up here. So.
In that sense, there is some differences in approaches when it comes to strategy versus when you maybe focus on specific content you're protecting, live content versus VOD content. However, when we talk about general strategy, I would just say that well, we have a certain categorization, or I would say pillars of anti-piracy, which starts with prevention, well, technical protection measures that are the first step that are in place to prevent pirates, bad actors of any sorts to abuse your content. Then we have disruption techniques, which is all that we are able to do as right holders to prevent and disrupt distribution of illegal content, sending notices and cease and desist letters to all intermediaries. And we have legal actions that are unfortunately necessary in many cases to have effectiveness of first two steps. You have to have legal recourse available. And finally, very importantly, you also have to have in mind public awareness and public support by authorities. Without recognition and without the support of relevant authorities, you would actually have a problem to, well, make all other pillars enforceable. So all of these pillars are necessary. And then you have some specifics when it comes to what kind of content you're
I
putting.
wonder if we could, I hope this is working, I wonder if we could maybe break down that a little bit. For example, when I'm watching Premier League coverage back home on Sky, every once in a while you'll see a little number which comes up underneath the Sky logo, which I'm told identifies my box. So in the unlikely event that I was to turn pirate and distribute it, they would know exactly where the content has come from. There's more subtle ways of doing it, for hidden marking and the like, and presumably you deploy those similar kinds of measures on your content.
Right, these are the examples of technologies in place to identify the source of piracy. Basically, rights holders observe piracy services, piracy illegally distributed pirated content. And when we initiate this kind of activities, it is basically to identify the source. Now, I always have a small issue with talking about this because I have a sense of sharing something that is not to be shared public, but basically these technologies that you're explaining are kind of visible fingerprinting technologies versus invisible fingerprinting. It is invisible watermarking, which are not visible to a human eye when observing the streams.
And there's audio-based ones as well, aren't there? I think, too.
Yeah. All these technologies are in place, are used, but it's important to clarify that none of these technologies by itself are sufficient to prevent the problem, to stop the problem. And in many cases, I would say it's more important for live sports piracy, live piracy of live events and prevention for the duration and while the event is taking place, versus some other forms of maybe VOD piracy. I can give you an example.
I guess it is right. It's two sides of the same coin. But you've got the live piracy on the one hand, and then you've got premium movies, your top series, often from the US, not necessarily, where people are keen to see those next episodes.
Right. And like I said, we have our own production. So we have premium TV series. which we distribute through our own platform. But just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, you could have best identification tools, and you have TV series that are offered on a premium basis. It's offered on a premium launch. And then you're able to identify actually the user who is disclosing this, but it only takes one when it comes to VOD. This is the problem. If you're on Netflix, it only takes one user to download your whole TV show, like, I don't know, House of Cards or anything.
Netflix arguably created their own piracy problem that they're now trying to clear up.
Right. Now the damage is that much bigger than actually any kind of profit that pirate originally took down the company.
Because I guess this leads on to there's topics that you mentioned there that we'll come back to, legal recourse being one of them. But you've also got piracy coming in from other places, because if you have a new top series and you've decided to schedule it in 2 weeks' time because you've got some important local event that you want to show or something similar to that, and another broadcaster in another part of the world is then a week ahead of you on this series. For some people, for the top shows, then they're going to be looking elsewhere.
Exactly. And this is a big problem because, pirates do not know territoriality when it comes to their distribution. Basically, they're distributing, in most cases, all over the world without any geo-blocking or geolocation technologies, which means that if you haven't scheduled some content to be alive or to be available at the same time, there's a threat there, right? So that's one of the points and in situations like this, we have a risk of higher damage due to piracy than maybe in some other cases, because even maybe not professional pirate, but someone who is just doing that as a form of amateurish sharing with friends, and then sharing a link of the content that he downloaded to a social media, it spreads instantly, and then it becomes available to all other piracy websites. I'm talking about VOD content. And then you know the original, you know the source, but the damage is already...
It's too late.
It's too late. And then all the investment in technological protection measures become kind of irrelevant at that point, because you know who is the one. You can initiate legal action, but the damage that the company, the right holder, is facing in that situation is much bigger than any kind of recourse, legal recourse.
Also, no piracy is good piracy, but in the grand scheme of things, there's the person in the back bedroom who shares, I don't know, the latest Game of Thrones sequel, prequel, spin-off series to all their friends. But then you've got the very criminal set of people who are just so sophisticated. You've probably seen them too. I've seen newspaper advertisements for the channels that are offered from their exclusive box, and you look at this and think, this is a great offer. It's better than any pay TV operator, and of course it is. They're pirating everything. Only it isn't better.
Right. And this form of illegal IPTV services, usually paid illegal IPTV service behind the paywall, you need to pay for a legal subscription, it's kind of a combination of different kind of piracy bundled into one and then offered and then directly competing with legal operators and causing damages across all distribution levels of channels. And it's a form of highly sophisticated, organized criminal groups that are behind it in many of these cases. And we have need for complex cybercrime investigations in some of these cases to be able to tackle them. And this is ongoing issue, but it also comes to that point of public support and awareness, because if we would have a better support by institutions, maybe we would have a better results in tackling these kind of groups. And of course, specifically, these kind of organized groups are our priority to prevent.
Is there one that is sort of ingrained in the culture of maybe some countries, but certainly in all countries, there are people, in the UK, you go to a quiet pub up a dark corner, and you get all of a sudden you're meeting somebody who can offer you the latest music system, and you can he's got it really cheap because fallen off the back of a lorry or didn't even make it to the lorry in the first place.
Yeah, these lorries go back all the time.
No, absolutely. But when there are people who think, well, bargain, isn't it? I can get all the football I want, and this guy's offering it to me for £100. Why should I pay United Media? Why should I pay Sky or Canal Plus to get that content and pay more money?
Right, and this is primary appeal. The price of it, you'll get a lot more content for the price, which is usually half of the legal operators.
With danger, I guess, to get switched off halfway through your favourite.
Now, there are risks, of course. Of course, there are risks, because we are doing all available steps to actually disrupt their business model, to prevent them from abusing our rights, for, well, actually damaging the whole industry. But, like I said, it's a growing trend. We don't see decline, we only see growth in this aspect. And we see growth actually in all forms of piracy. But
what's the biggest piracy threat right now? Is it these tailor-made boxes, or is it the ad hoc find a web stream?
That depends on who you ask, but since I would say illegal IPTV operators are maybe the biggest threat, although they're kind of coming together when it comes to these kind of technologies and rely on one another. There is a whole ecosystem of illegal operators, service providers, platform providers. There is a form of piracy as a service where these groups or individuals do not actually claim they do not engage in piracy, but they're just offering a service. They're offering you to be able to provide your own service, actually. You to be the pirate, and they're just support, right? Well, this kind of ecosystem gives rise to these trends, and we are seeing a significant trend right now, not right now, in the last, well, I would say 10 years or 5 years of illegal IPTV services growing constant rate. And we see, of course, but this is the difference, which type of piracy endangers which type of legal operator or legal business. And to each his own. Streaming piracy can endanger maybe broadcasters and sports rights holders versus illegal IPTV services who are endangering maybe telco operators offering these kind of bundled packages legally, but these legal offers can never compete with illegal ones in ways of content, because you always have a larger content available with pirates, and there are some clear marks how you're able to identify. Like you said, you see some ads. I'm guessing probably in some social media, right, where you have thousands of TV channels, 20,000 movies or whatever. These kind of offers are on the face of it, do not seem to.
Is it curiosity? That one thing which strikes me, though, about 10 years or so ago, Sky sacked their two main sports presenters. They were caught on a microphone saying something they shouldn't. And these guys then went across to be in sports. And they are fronting Premier League coverage for them every week. Richard Keys and Andy Gray, you can look them up. These guys are still quoted in the UK press as to what they said. Nobody in the UK can legally get be in sports, yet national newspapers, through, I guess, a kind of clickbaity kind of way, are indirectly encouraging the profile of two people who have not been on British television for 10 years in any form, are working for an international broadcaster.
Right, and this goes to that public awareness point, because we often get this, in public discussions, this notion of, this content should be available more freely, or...
I mentioned the 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff rule in the UK. This is in the UK. There are pirated services which get around that.
Right. But I would say this is kind of what we hear usually as argument for availability, having legal content available. But I never really understood this argument, because right now we have more legally available offers, and that could be easily, first of all, users can find it easily, even just by Googling it, and subscribing to these kind of services than ever before. And at the same time, we have a rise of these kind of services. Or let's compare it to the Netflix. Netflix has made available globally their content, but that didn't lead to the kind of illegal piracy websites. If the argument of availability is legitimate, why didn't just the fact that Netflix allowed each country to have access to its platform, why did it lead to decline of these piracy websites? No, actually they're growing on a constant rate.
What do you think of the European Union's latest attempts to stamp out, destroy, defer piracy?
I have to choose my words a bit more carefully here, but I would say that
I'm good because I don't care.
That's why we're asking this question. Well, I have to say that they haven't met our expectations when it comes to this. I'm constantly going back to this public support and awareness. That would be translated into more strict, clear, precise legislation that would prevent them.
So why are they getting it right? They must have, access to experts, to people like you, for example.
That's a bit more of a political question. Why? I can say what we have as an outcome. What we have as an outcome, which is usually some sort of a compromise on different kinds of levels. I would say that as rights holders in this area, and I think that there's kind of a common understanding between other rights holders as well, that we do not at this moment have sufficiently good legal tools, regulatory tools available to prevent piracy, specifically live piracy, because as you know, live content has the value as during the duration of this event. As soon as it ends, the value drops, right? You don't see the value 3 hours after the game, because the appeal was
during you found out the score, haven't you?
Exactly, no one will go back. As opposed to VOD, watching the movie that continues to have value over time. So in order to have effective tool, you have to have legal basis to actually prevent this illegal content being available as it goes on. So it has to be stopped during the event or just prior to the event. And there are different kinds of tools and legal tools and in the sense of regulatory options that we are relying on.
And this review clause, which I think there was a group of something like 28 MEPs, something of that order, and a whole load of broadcasters and broadcaster representatives basically said the period was too long.
Exactly, and I agree. Well, that goes on. You have Digital Services Act that was enacted last year, and it will come to effect in February 2024. And then we have notion, or we have the understanding that the PSA does not provide us efficient tools to have this kind of possibility to prevent live piracy. Therefore, you had, well, first of all, Parliament has voted in a large favor of you know, tackling the issues of live piracy, which then prompted the Commission to react in the sense, well, we were hoping for more concrete legislative response, but they opted for a recommendation that was given to member states and intermediaries, the rights holders, in the sense what would be how to encourage prevention of live sports.
Well, we look for more. We look for more progress there, obviously, but it doesn't seem too optimistic at the moment. I'm afraid we're out of time. Yeah, it's one of these conversations that we could probably carry on for some time to come. Let's go. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.